we have covered. Yesterday, we started looking into the areas of various usages and use cases of Gemini. We have looked at three major aspects of the way Gemini works. We have seen how Gemini is useful in visualization of a topic or a area or a idea that we want to introduce with the help of storybooks, how it can help in the form of a learning coach as well as guided learning also. We also saw how we could utilize Gemini by combining it with the function of Google Vids so as to create visually animated presentations. And that's where we kind of stopped our discussion with a brief overview of the way it collates and collects the information in the deep research mode or the deep research feature of Gemini itself. So with that, we're going to continue our discussion forward. And today we're going to take a look at two important aspects of this topic that we're looking at. And first, we're going to finish our discussion on Gemini. Yesterday, I mentioned briefly in passing that Gemini has two ways by the means of which we can utilize it directly as well as indirectly for trying to look at various methods of tasks that we want to carry out pertaining to the teaching learning process. And we've seen the direct part yesterday. Now we're going to look at the second one today. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started in a minute. Just give me a second. Right, my screen should be visible now. This part, which I am about to show you now, is actually a addition that Gemini has made to a tool which many of us are already familiar with. And it's something we all must have used at one point or the other. I am talking about Google Classroom. And just like Google Vids, for accessing Google Classroom, we require an institutional email ID to access all of its features. And when we do that, when we open Classroom with an institutional ID that we have, we can see that there's a new option that has become available here, which is called as Gemini itself. And this is a feature which would not be available in case I open a Classroom account with a normal email account. Let me just show you that. So for example, this is a normal email account that I have used to open another Classroom. But as we can see, there is no Gemini tab here. Whereas if I open it with the Google Space or the G Suite, Google Workspace, it gives me this option right here. And when I click on it, it gives me this new tab where we can see that we have a lot of options that we can look at. And it really gives us a vast amount of tasks which we can create, automate, and start looking at in terms of trying to look at the various aspects of the whole teaching learning process that we have. Now, currently, we are in the default layout or the default outlook of Gemini feature in the Classroom, which is on the All tab, where all the features that are there inside of this are available for our reference. Further to that, if we want to see the categorization of the same, you can see that they are divided into 5 major subheadings: planning, creation of instructional materials, assessments, support system for students, and there's one last one called as administrative tasks. If I want to see all of them together, all I have to do is click back on all, and we would be able to simply get back to the primary main screen that we get when we click on Gemini option for the first time. So now, before we go ahead and start getting an output with any of these features, one important distinction I think needs to be made clear. Just give me a second. I think I'm experiencing some network issue. Just a second. Okay, I hope I'm audible and you can see my screen. Please let me know because I thought there's some lag.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Right. So one important distinction which needs to be made clear is this, that we can see that there are symbols or there are icons besides each option. And some of these have this logo of a diamond shaped feature, which is there in Gemini. And we can see that some of them don't have that option. And the difference here is the options for which we don't have that diamond like icon right here, the output or the functionality of these features can be seen inside Classroom itself, inside the environment that we're currently in. Whereas for those options, if I click on them when they have this kind of an icon right here, it's an icon similar to Gemini's logo. What it would do is it would take me to the Gemini window for creation of the output. So the distinction needs to be understood. And we'll start from the last one first, and we'll try to explore some of them and see what kind of output we get before going ahead. So for example, let's say this one right here, which says create a professional development plan. Now, under the administrative tasks category, all the four of those are having this logo in front of it. So which means that the output for all four, let's say click on this one, that what it would do is it would automatically take me back to the Gemini version. And as you can see that it already has a prompt that's pre-created. So yesterday there was a question of at the discussion part, we saw that there was a question on which tool is better for what purpose. So this was my response to it. That with Gemini, and this was what I was referring to when I said that when I show this part, the prompts will be pre-created. And we can see how detailed the prompt is. We don't have to write any of this now. At the click of a button, this prompt has been pre-created for us. We'll just take a look at the prompt for a minute and see what all they have tried to integrate into this. So the prompt starts out by contextualizing the role or the persona that Gemini has to take up in this instance, which is of an expert instructional coach for a grade K to 12 and a professional development designer. And we can see that it goes on to talk about the specialization that the bot would be having in this instance in creating varieties of plans which are impact driven, which have professional growth, which are marked or operating within the framework of the SMART goal format, etc. And then it goes on to talk about what its function is, which is to guide the user to the process of creation of a plan using a collaborative approach. And then we can see that there are some examples which are being given in the prompt to the Gemini to the Gemini chatbot, so that as to make it clear to the model as to what kind of questions to ask in response to this prompt when it is auto generated. So when you go down, we can see there's an example of what an output itself is supposed to give. And using this example as a base, it will start to ask me questions when we come to the output part. And I would request you to, when you are exploring this further, to try and see the detail to which the prompt has been designed. And accordingly, we can design our prompts also to suit our best requirements. And once we auto click on this prompt, this is the output that we get. Based on all this information, it says, I'll ask you some questions to be sure we tailor your professional development plan to your class, school, and style. This will be a collaborative process because somewhere here it said that it has to be a collaborative approach, and to give feedback to the model as and when required. To start, can you tell me a little bit about your goal with this PD plan? Let's give it one single line prompt so as to save some time. The plan is to ensure maximum professional success. Now, each time I enter a prompt or each time I enter a response, it will start thinking about my answer that I've given. And on the basis of that, it will ask me follow-up questions. So for example, it says, to help me understand maximum professional success, could you tell me who this professional development plan is for? So it is asking me who is my target audience, or who is my target learner, or who is the target entity for which I am designing this professional development plan. So let's try to answer some of those questions. The whole department for improvement of productivity goals and meeting deadlines. Pardon me, I am typing quite fast, so let me just give this prompt also. So now from the broader objective, it has started to narrow down the focus of my goal. And based on the frameworks that have been outlined in its primary prompt, which is utilizing the SMART goal method and the rest of the features, it asks me a further follow-up question on what exactly it understands by the term productivity, and can you tell me the key area for growth? For example, let's say areas like assessments, long range planning, and managing daily tasks. So based on these primary criteria, I think usually with all of these prompts, it will ask about 3 to 4 follow-up questions minimum, on the basis of which it will then go towards its primary objective, which is to draft a professional development plan. And I think this is the last question that it will ask me, which is to make sure that the plan is focused and not overwhelming. Which of these areas do you believe is the highest level response? So which means that which one needs to be improved first? Let's say daily tasks. Now there's a question on time frame. I'll just say 6 weeks. We can decide depending upon our requirement. And then it will acquire about some touch points. Let's say weekly, I will have one such session with the department. Then it asks me what is your preferred approach to coaching. For example, do you lean towards modeling strategies, facilitating collaborative problem solving? Let's go with this approach. I think this would be more contemporary. And let's see what output it generates or comes out with. You can see the subtasks that it has followed. No, let's avoid any more questions. In case anytime you want to stop this continuous feedback and questioning method until it reaches there on its own, we can simply give it a very simple instruction saying that no, this is enough, this is all the information I have, please go towards the main task, which is to draft the actual plan itself. And from here we should now be seeing the final framework, which should be coming out any second, which was the primary objective that we have outlined. So hopefully we get the output this time. Yeah, there we go. So this is a plan for a 6-week professional development program with one primary objective, which is to master daily task management. And these are all the areas of the topics which, according to this particular prompt, we should be covering week-wise. And how to take them forward, all of that information would be given here. And it can do further things. And just like last time, I can export it to Google Docs, as we saw yesterday. I can draft this in a email directly from here and send it off if I want to send it. And based on what feedback I give here, it will give me further drafts. These are some suggestions. It says we could flash out the agenda for the very first professional development session, or add a list of potential task management system or resources which are required. Depends on, like, for example, mood boards or Trello boards, etc. I'm going to stop this part right here. We'll go back to the next one. So in this way, all of these 4 can be created. So let's say, for example, drafting a class newsletter or creating a Jigsaw activity is something that would be possible to do. Now, these are the 2 other tabs under the support students section. This one is simply going to work like Google Translate, basically. These are the primary languages in which we can translate the text into. So I won't spend too much time on this. We know how this works. And with Gemini's power added to it, it can give us a more accurate translation. But that is something that is possible to do with any chatbot that we know. What is of importance here is right from starting from this third part, where we see some more important tabs coming up now. For example, generating a quiz.
So now we can see the difference between when we have this kind of an option versus when we have this. So if I click on generate a quiz, it will not take me to Gemini. Instead, it will open itself into the classroom only, where it is going to ask me three categories of questions depending on what goal or objective I have. First is target grade, let's say postgraduate students. Number of questions, let's make it 20. Okay, minimum 15, maximum 15 can generate, let's say 15. Describe the topic and the knowledge or skills you want students to demonstrate. For example, so here we can enter the topic, the skills we want to assess, etc. Understanding of types of communication models. And once I do this, it won't directly generate the questions. It will first do one step before that, which is to generate a set of learning objectives. Now, based on what I write here, these are the objectives that it has generated. The level of difficulty or the quality of questions will really depend on these learning objectives that we define here. These are the suggested drafts. Students will be able to critically analyze the historical evolution of major communication models, will be able to differentiate between linear transactional models, etc. And then there are about 4 or 5 important objectives that are given. It gives us this very important suggestion here, which is to review and edit the learning objectives to be specific and relevant to our topic. And now we have to select what category of quiz do we want. And once I select whichever category I want, it will divide the total number of questions, which is 15, in these categories. And when I click on generate questions, now it will go ahead and generate the questions that I have asked for. Based on my topic, it will be based on two things: based on my topic and based on my learning objectives that I have defined. So as we can see, this is what the entire draft looks like. This is the title, learning objectives are here, question types. If I'm not satisfied with the draft, I can always click on regenerate. And if I want to edit anything, I can click on edit, it will edit it. There's one thing I want to talk about, I'll come back to that, but before that, we can see the questions right here. For example, the Shannon-Weaver model of communication is considered a dashed model because it describes a one-way process from a sender to receiver, and the answer would be given below it as well. And we can see that there's a mixture of questions from true or false, MCQs, detailed descriptive questions, etc. Now, this is one very important point that I want to highlight here before we go ahead. Each time we get a draft, right? Let's say this draft has come. Before I modify this further, if I want to change this, or if I want to save this, this is what it says right here, that please export this to a Google form or a Google Doc, because let's say if I click on regenerate, or if I click on edit details, or if I come down here and if I click on modify with prompt, it will change the entire preview and these questions that are coming here will be lost. So before moving any further, let's say if it's a data bank of questions that we're generating or a set of resources that we're generating, it's always a good option to click on export. And this is the best part. I can directly import these questions to my classroom also. If I click on add to class, it will give me all the classrooms that I've created in my Google Classroom, and I can export it there directly. Of course, if I don't want to do that, I can directly export it to Google Forms or Google Docs also. Now, since this is a quiz, that's why it is giving me the option of forms. Otherwise, it would not do that with all the tabs. But the best way out, of course, would be to click on export to docs. And then from here, I would be getting a new tab. And once I click on view Google Doc here, I would be able to see the generated version right here. So now I have it saved in my Google Drive of the same email account which I'm using. Now I can modify this further if required. The moment I click on forms, it will do the same thing. It will take me to the website of form.google.com, and in fact, let's see that also. And it will create the quiz itself. So here I'll just show this one for a second, and then from that we can go ahead. So let's just give it a second. I hope that it generates soon. Okay, it has already been exported. In case this dialog box closes, we can simply go to our form or our Google Doc website, and we can see that this has already been generated in the form of a quiz, which is ready to be shared, depending upon before we modify it upon our requirement. And now I can modify this further. Let's say if I want to click on edit details, you can see that we have come back to the main tab. That preview is now lost. I won't get that screen back. My questions are here right now. So that is something that is of prime importance to take a note of. I've deleted them. In fact, let's keep them because we might need them at a later stage in this demo. So in this way, we can regenerate and generate the quiz. The only thing is it can generate up to 15 questions at a time. So that we have to take care of that. Second option is creating a rubric of assessment. Now, same part, but we can see that there are slightly different set of questions it is asking me. First is a target grade again, undergraduate students. Performance levels, that is across how many levels of assessment do I want the rubrics to be generated. I'll click on 4. There are options 3, 4, and 5. Add assignment instructions. So now I can give assignment instructions manually, or I can, if I have those instructions in any file, I can upload them from my Google Drive as well. And then there's another question, we'll come back to that. So let's just give it a simple single line assignment instruction. Assessment of speaking, let's say of LSRW skills on the basis of globally accepted standards and frameworks for English language and communication. Now, in case we have a model that is predefined, we can enter that here also, depending on the target level or the learner that the target level of the audience or the learner that we are targeting. And if we don't have that, we can give a description like this, which I have done in this particular instance, so as to show what the output looks like. Now, depending on the discipline or the subject area, such pre-created models or frameworks of assessment would already be there, as we are aware of. Just like, for example, when we create higher order thinking questions, we have Bloom's taxonomy that we have, and on the basis of that, we can go select those keywords from where we can design questions for the idea of assessment that we are looking for. In this way, we can create rubrics. And let's say if I don't want to do that, or if I want to make this more powerful, I can add those models that I'm talking about. Like for example, here I can go ahead and write something like this in the context of CFR framework. Now it is asking me describe the knowledge of the skills you want the students to demonstrate. Now, since in this instance, the idea is to assess all 4 skills. Let's write that. And then we click on generate criteria. So now what it will do is it will take all this information into account. It will now it is understood I'm looking for CFR framework. So it's saying that CFR aligned comprehension, proficiency skills, and overall fluency in question. I can edit this if this is what I want to change. And now on the basis of this, it will generate the rubric that I want or that I am looking for. And there we go. Just like earlier. Exceeding, meeting, approaching, far from approaching, and then we have the rubrics coming up. I can export these rubrics to sheets or docs, since this is a rubric which is supposed to. So the intuitive learning that this model of Gemini seems to be doing is quite good, in the sense that it understands that this is a rubric, so it would look better, or it would be better formatted in a sheet as opposite to a Google form. So I can export directly to sheet or docs as well. I can copy paste it also. Like last time, if I want to regenerate this, if I'm not happy with this, I can simply click on regenerate. It will generate a draft for me, or I can simply edit the original primary input or information that I've put in, and I can get a regenerated draft like this. But each time we do that, the previous draft goes away. So it's important to export it first for any of these options that you click on. I'll just discard this. I don't think we need this. Brainstorm, this is very good. This one I really like. This is called brainstorm project ideas. So let's say we are trying to give an assessment which is of more practical nature, which is supposed to be of such a kind where they have to practically demonstrate the implementation of the skills that have been discussed in the classroom. So again, we define the target learner first. And this will only ask me two relevant questions right now. Describe the topic or the standard you want to teach and the knowledge of the skill you want the students to demonstrate. Using critical thinking and problem solving skills in the subject area of organizational communication with a special focus on human resources. Now, again, I can give more information or more context to this particular prompt by adding more files or references from here. That is, of course, optional. I can, let's say, if I have any needle information, any guidelines which I want the model to follow while designing the project idea, I can upload them right here from upload drive option. I'll not do that. Let's see what it comes out with on its own. And first, it will come up with learning objectives again. We can modify this if required. Then it asks a very important option, which is, does the project type needs to be group work or individual? Here we can't choose both. It is a single choice option, unlike a quiz where we could choose all four at a time. And we have to decide whether it's a group project or individual work. Let's say individual work, and then it says any suggestions for the project. So, and these suggestions can be of 3 or 4 types, pertaining to the interest area of students, the real world contexts, modalities that are possible, resources available. Let's keep it very simple. Impact of using the skills mentioned in real world corporate scenarios and industries with tangible outcomes. And now, once I click on this, now it will go ahead and it will again come back to the same part where it will regenerate the draft for me again in the same way. I can add this to class, I can export it to doc. Learning objectives and everything are there, but nothing, I have not provided anything in instruction material. And this is the project idea, project title. It has been given a working title also, HR Crisis Simulation, the Communication Consultants Challenge. And this is the overall project description. In this project, your students will step into the role of an external communication consultant hired to address a major human resources crisis at a hypothetical company. This project requires students to apply the both skills which I have outlined in that to a complex and real world scenario. And then further instructions follow. Materials which might be required have been presupposed here, access to academic databases, etc. And then comes the main project topic. This is a script right there. A well-known company, this is the problem statement. A well-known company, Innovate Global, is facing a critical human resource crisis. They've hired you, an expert in organization communication, to analyze the situation and provide a strategic solution. And then to solve, basically, it outlines the fact that as a learner or as somebody who's going to take this assessment, they have to approach this project idea and to give deliverables which are of these, which are divided into these further phases. So construct a communication plan for the company with these areas, write a final report, and the final submission will be a professional consultant's report, which they have to give basically and submit or present, depending on what kind of modality our project is going to have. And it gives us this entire plan, which can basically be again exported to docs if I want to, or I can simply select it like this manually. In case I don't want to create multiple docs at the same time, I can paste it in the same doc like this. So this is the output from right here. Yeah. So this is the next option in this toolkit, which is generating brainstorming project ideas. In this way, we have others also. We can create depth of knowledge questions. We can create text dependent questions. Let's go with this one. So here, for example, number of questions I think would be maximum would be 15, as I was thinking. Again, We can select the kind of questions that we want. Then the skills that we want to assess on the basis of the whole idea or the knowledge that we want to test. Apart from this, if I want to test something more, that also I can write manually. And this is where I have to upload my text. So here we can now be more innovative of in terms of trying to give our own primary texts for creating these assessments. So let's say I'll do something like this. I would not advise this, but since we're short of time, I'm just doing this demo. Right. So this is going to be the assumption that this is our primary text, which I can upload if I have a soft copy of it, or let's say if I don't have it, if I have written something on my own, let's say in the form of a case study or a narrative, which I am looking for, I'll just keep it till here. And I just want to show you the output as to what it looks like basically. Where did it go? Yeah. I can upload the copy of the text from here, or I can upload it. So yesterday I remember there was another question on what is a tool which is useful for creating material or questions from a text. So Gemini can do that also. It has a pretty generous character limit or word limit, 130,000 words. I can click on generate questions, and now it will take this primary text into account, and on the basis of that, it will generate the entire set of questions that I want, that I'm looking for. And yeah, there we go. See, the test can be taken right here if required. And if I click on correct answer, it would give that to me also. I think it is not going to let me click on it because it is the preview mode. It must be saying somewhere right here. Yeah. Where was it? Yeah, this is for preview only. To make edits or add images or videos to this, we can take it to docs and take it from there. And if I export this to docs, let's do that because let's see if the answers come or not, because they should be coming ideally. So they should be showing parallelly alongside the questions only. Yeah. And this is the correct answer and the wrong answers. The choices are given here. Open-ended questions following with along with that there's a specific set of sample answers that follows. So that also is there right there. Let me delete this. So in this way, we can export it in a form also. Correct answers won't come in forms. That's what it says somewhere here. I think in the detailed question, yeah. Correct answer will be exported to docs, but not to forms for descriptive questions. So that also is possible under this. Choice board can be built. Specific problems pertaining to math can also be designed, and this one I have not explored, but it is supposed to simulate a science lab experiment simulation. And of course, for those of us who require this, can take a look at it. Now, this one is instructional material. Some will be overlapping. For example, creation of a rubric, generation of a quiz, project idea. These are all similar options that we saw. A story can be drafted from right here. Let's say I want a primary text for the previous option that I've shown just now. I can do that. But there was one which was quite important. This was write an informational text. So this is a very interesting one. I just have to write the basic topic. Click on generate learning objectives. Same process it will follow. I have to write this very precisely. And once they have been drafted, I'll click on generate. And we should be getting a short handout kind of an output as we go ahead. Let's see what it comes out with. And from there, we'll go ahead. Yeah, there we go. A short handout for a quick reference to the topic that we're going to be discussing, with some reflective questions at the end. For example, how might advancements in AI and machine learning act as both a form of noise and channel within the Shannon-Weaver model? And then other questions that follow. This can be a very short handout that we can give for a quick discussion or any other form of case study analysis or whatever we want to prompt in the classroom. But again, that prompt that I closed just now, it was telling us to verify this information that we have to do at every point of time. It is saying it multiple times. Generative AI can make mistakes. So our primary verification would be required from our end. There are other options like this, vocabulary list, creation of a story, building a choice board. Let's do this. I'll give the same idea very briefly because I want to show some other tabs also. Same process for each of them. Learning objectives have to be very precisely drafted. Based on that, it will create the primary output that I have asked for or that I am looking for. So yeah, this is the choice board where we have some activities that we can do. Beautiful output where we can basically give the choice to students as to what they would like to do, or maybe some other form of training program that we're doing. And if you want to use this here, we can give that this as a choice and then take it further from there. And it's color coded, which is of more use there as well. Again, exporting to doc is required. So let's say I'm giving a choice to my students to pick any one of these for their assignment or for the in-classroom activity based on the learning objectives that I designed. Or if I want to edit this further, I can do so by clicking on exporting to docs, which it will export directly. So this was a choice board. In fact, let's see how it looks like. I just want to check whether it retains the color coding or not. I don't think it does, but if it does, that's really good. I think it will convert. Oh, it is doing that. That's nice. So now these boxes are editable. I can edit this further, post this Word file. It makes it better to look at and go further from there. Or add more choices if I need to. Let's go back. Vocabulary list, refresh knowledge on topic, brainstorm a field trip plan. Multiple options are there. They've started experimenting with quite a bit of options. And these are some of the more interesting ones. Like for example, this is the outline a lesson plan. So if any topic I have and I want to see what all can be done in one single class or for that particular topic, let's say we'll go with the same example. Template, general or 5e. 5e is the model that I'm sure we know of. In case we are not aware, this is what it talks about. Which talks about engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. That's the 5-stage 5e model of creation of a lesson plan. We'll go with general. Let's go with the same. Business communication theories. I can give more relevant material if I want to. Same idea. Creation of learning objectives. Once they've been created, describe your class, where I have to talk about size, available resources, learning needs and interests. Class of 100 students with projector and whiteboard. The class likes to learn by activities and case studies. So this brief description would be very important. And once this has been done, it will take a few seconds, and then on the basis of that, it will generate a lesson plan for me. It will follow the template of a lesson plan, right from what are the prerequisites that are required to what should be the minute-to-minute description, see materials needed overview, preparation required, common misconceptions, activities, how to do that activity, what all to use to facilitate it, how to actually take it forward, right? The activities are divided into stages, and what is the exit ticket, or what is supposed to be the way in which it is supposed to be conducted further, and how to leave the classroom at the end. And then I can modify this with the prompt. This is available in all the outputs, and these are some suggestive prompts, which if I want to further make this more specific, it can be done as well. And from there, we come back to the next part, the last one before I move on to my next tool for today. This is called class syllabus. So this with one click is supposed to apparently design a template or a primary draft of a syllabi also. So same method. This one is taking us to Gemini. and detailed prompt is already pre-created. It will take a few seconds, ask me a set of follow-up questions, and I'll just limit the number of questions that it asks me. I'll simply say the syllabus has to be for a PG class of MBA students of 4 units. Don't ask me any further follow-up questions and proceed with drafting of the syllabus. So hopefully it understands the prompt and doesn't ask me any more questions further. As we can see, it is developing the syllabus. Otherwise, it would ask further questions, and the more specific responses we give, the better the final version would be. In the interest of saving time, I have limited those questions here. And this is what the final version would look like. Learning objectives, materials, course outlines, suggested case studies, for example, strategic environment analysis. Rise of Netflix is a case study. IKEA's global strategy. So it's pretty useful and it's pretty specific in terms of what it can be: suggestive grading and assessment with the division of grading, which can separately be exported to sheets, not the entire doc. Classroom policies and rules and regulations are also being drafted, and then this entire thing can be shared and exported to docs again. So these are some of the major things which are included under the Gemini tab, and they allow us to do a lot of things. Of course, I would always say what I said earlier yesterday also. They need to be used in conjunction with the primary information that we gather and the primary drafting that we do. They can give us a really good head start on any of these things that we want to and save us a lot of time there. But of course, two things would be required: manual editing and checking on our part for the reliability of information that it is generating, and not to use anything directly, but rather to build upon that and to take it forward from there. So this was the first primary segment for today. And after that, what we can do is we also have this second section right here, which is like basically taking me to the next category of my tool for tomorrow, which I am going to be talking about in two phases. I have been trying to see if we can capture the element of creation of a chatbot, but so far we have not reached there. So tomorrow I think we'll start with that, and then I'll move on to the next tool by Google, with another one which is primarily designed for infographics, because I think we have about 10 minutes left with us and I want to have some time for questions also. So thank you for listening to me patiently. And before opening up for some questions, I'll reiterate what I said in the beginning. This can be accessed in Classroom with an institutional email ID, not with a regular ID that we have normally. That's the only part that we have to take care of. The rest all is free to use because it's the part of the Google Workspace. So yes, I'm going to open up the session for some questions now. In case if you have any questions, please let me know. We have about 10 minutes plus. Yeah. Thank you so much. Hopefully it was useful. And yeah, we can have any questions that we want. You can post them in the chat box, or you can unmute and ask a question also.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, actually, yesterday I did not join the class, so where I can get the recording?
Okay, thank you for asking that question. Actually, I think this is a good time to mention that